Okay, Unheard Gems. Today I'm joined with SHEARE, who's one of my favorite artists. Welcome so much to our show, and how are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Doing well. So, sort of first off, just to give us a little bit of a get to know you, when did you know you wanted to pursue music, and when did you start doing music?
I knew I wanted to do music in some capacity from a really early age. I always tell the same story, but it's like such a poignant one. My older brother sort of feigned interest in playing guitar for like a week, and he quickly realized that the musical talent just wasn't gonna be in the cards for him. So I just kind of adopted his guitar, and then my older cousin, I was at his house once, and he played me "Smells Like Teen Spirit" by Nirvana, and I was super 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 young, but I just remember being like, yeah, that everything that's that I need to do that, and so I just started playing guitar and drums, and the concept of writing music didn't really come till I was probably a teenager, when I was just like full of angst. And then now, being in my 20s as a young adult, I'm still full of the same type of teen angst. I never really graduated from it, so it's kind of just been a weird evolving thing that I've just always done.
So sort of just as continuing this preview to you and your music, if you had an elevator pitch, like a quick summary, to sell or describe your music to a new listener, how would you describe your music and sound?
I would say it's like if Taylor Swift and Maddie Healy made out in the backseat of an old Mercedes at a drive-in movie theater while a John Hughes movie was playing. That's my sound. That's what my sound sounds like. I think I actually really just made that up on the spot, so I'm proud of that. But yeah, that's like, I think pretty accurate statement of what my sound is. Yeah.
So then, sort of once you really discovered you wanted to do music, what was your journey like on like a professional level? When you saw that path and you knew you wanted to pursue music, how did you land on a genre, figure out how you're going to make it happen, make it a career?
I think I'm still trying to figure that out. I think I'm still evolving so much. I feel now like I'm the closest to being what I'm supposed to be that I ever have, if that makes sense. You go through these sort of evolutions as an artist, just as you do as a person, where, you start doing one type of music, and I mean, it's all the same thing. Like, I feel like it can all exist in the same world of what I've done since releasing singles, in, about a year and a half ago to kind of now. I think it's just an evolution, and I think that, you just kind of grow as a person, and you start hopefully writing songs that are better and people respond to them a little bit more. But it's really just about, like, I've kind of learned to not try to chase what people are after and just write what feels most natural to me, because the way in which I've done everything so far is, I've always written songs alone in my apartment, in my bedroom, and I've sort of made all the music since, and kind of just really try to take it from a place of like, okay, this is what I'm feeling now in the moment, and this is what I'm feeling in my apartment at this hour. And so kind of making it based off of that versus trying to chase a sound or chase what people are after. And yeah, I don't know if I went on too long of a tangent in that answer the question, but awesome. I think yeah, it's just I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't think you ever stop trying to figure it out. You just eventually, like, what I've noticed in the last year is I've been playing cooler shows. That to me is like the small victory. Or I'll have people, like you on Instagram just message me and be like, I found your music. Or I had this, I played this show in LA called School Night, and I headlined it. And the cool thing about that show was that, like, maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I got, like, the booker at the time was like, yeah, your music's cool, it's just not right for this, and sort of got passed on. And then, a few years later, I was headlining. And the cooler thing was, like, when I played that show, I had this like group of Aussies who were like, oh yeah, you know, well, your music came up on our Discover Weekly, and it's our like first time in LA, and so we saw you were playing and came. It's like that to me is, you know, the best metric you could possibly have for measuring like if what you're doing is resonating with people on any level, you know.
Yeah. So then sort of now going towards your music and your songs, what are your main sources of inspiration, and what is your creative process like when you're writing your music?
You know, it's funny, my mom always yells at me about like just not writing about other things other than sort of relationships, but it's just what I do. I mean, I think that it's just this innate thing for me to, you know, go through something with someone, good, bad, or indifferent, and just have it as a source. I don't know how to really like, I wish I was one of those people who could write about gun violence and, you know, everything that's going on in our country, but I don't feel like, it's not as if that I don't care about those things. I really care about those things. It's just, I don't feel, you know, compelled to necessarily speak about them in what I do. I feel compelled to speak about them, about relationships that are going on. So I think like just the turbulent nature of dating in a time where, you know, we're all swiping and trying, we're all really just kind of searching constantly for something or someone, and, you know, we're all secretly lonely, but we're like searching for people on our couch. It's just a weird thing, you know. I mean, dating now is a weird thing. It's become a really hard, difficult thing, and it's really hard for people to connect now, I think, and, you know, in a sustainable way, because everybody's got their hang-ups, and there's just so many options constantly being thrown at you, and just in the way that we consume, you know, social media now. So I think that's like been like relationships has been such a huge thing for me, just because every time I enter one, it becomes the source of the next batch of music. So in that sense, I really am like Taylor Swift. But yeah, I mean, you know, I think that just it's something that's always going to be part of my life, unless I just become, you know, like this asexual eunuch who just goes to a cave somewhere and just never, you know, interacts with the opposite sex. I'm always probably going to write about what's happening in my relationships, but it takes me a really long time to like digest what's gone on, you know. Like the last EP, Turbulence, for example, was about one specific person and thing that happened, but it took me, you know, like 6 months to really be able to sit down and write about it, whereas Music for Photobooth, the new EP, is like very kind of it's like an amalgamation of a few different people, and just the title was about someone specific. So yeah, I think I'm always going to be pulling things, and I have sort of this, you know, innate sense for sadness, as I always joke on Instagram about. But I think that's just where I gravitate. You know, I've always been someone who's felt like a loner in many ways. So I think that it just translates into my, you know, life of dating, is that it doesn't, you know, it's definitely not perfect. I'm definitely not perfect in that sense. I joke all the time that I would hate to date me. It would be a nightmare. But I think in general it's kind of a bit of a struggle dating, you know, at this time and age. But yeah.
So I've got more questions about music, but this one just came in my head right now. Do you ever have to like tell someone when you enter a relationship, like, hey, if this works out, doesn't work out, I'm writing a song about you? Like,
I think they know. I mean, it's a weird thing, you know, like I feel like the last couple of people I've dated, it's been like, I mean, this sounds like kind of shitty, but like it's been, you know, I've met people at shows I've played. So it's like they kind of know what they're getting into. I mean, you can't really come to a show or know, like, even just, I suppose if you follow me on Instagram or so anything, like you kind of know. You're like, oh, what do you do? It's not like I'm going to be like, oh, well, you know, I'm a cat sitter for a living, you know. It's like, it kind of comes with the territory, and it's really hard, I think, on people. I really don't I don't take any, like, I don't want to ever hurt anybody. That's probably part of my problem. And I think that's, you know, it may not come across that way all the time, but I don't enjoy, like, necessarily things not working out and having to, like, write a sad bummer type of body of music because of it. You just get used to it a little bit, because then, you know, I always joke, like, I start to become a little bit of a character of my own self, because people project, like, they think I'm somebody, or I shouldn't say not everybody, but in, you know, my last few kind of experiences, you know, people forget that, like, you know, I take my hat off, literally my hat that is my signature, and go to bed at night and feel things like every other person, just because I happen to, like, be an artist as what I'm doing with my life doesn't mean that somehow, like, you know, I don't feel things, or I'm not an extremely sensitive person. So yeah, it's weird. It's, like, really weird. It's weird, like, it's weird having people follow you on social media that you used to date, and then you're, like, talking about them in an interview. It's like, it's weird, you know, it's strange. It's, like, not a normal thing. I mean, none of it that comes, and I'm on such an indie, small, you know, beginning stage of my career, so it's weird that this stuff happens now, you know. But I think it's just, yeah, there's stuff that's not, like, you know, comes with me as an artist and the type of artist I am, that, like, tracks a certain type of person who I guess is, you know, interested in me, both musically or romantically or whatever, but, like, it's not really conducive. It's not, like, fair to another person all the time. Like, I wouldn't like it. I don't really take joy. It's just honest. Like, I write honest music about relationships, so I'm not going to suddenly, like, when I'm talking about them, whether it's, like, you know, to 5 people or whatever, like, if it, you know, when I'm going to be positive, when it scales, like, and talking, you know, to a massive audience, I'm not going to, like, suddenly downplay what I'm, you know, the genuine honesty of what it is that I write about. Like, it's, you know, it does come with the territory, and I think it's really hard on people. Like, I think I've had people really paint me as this character, and then, yeah, it's hard for me to sometimes get there with them, you know, like, romantically speaking, because I think that people have a little bit more of, like, nobody wants to be turned into, like, a song necessarily. Like, it's great in theory, but if it's not always that favorable, it's not the best thing. Nobody really wants that, you know? Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
So this, I guess, sounds like a weird question to ask now, but have you had a favorite song to work on, and why? What set it apart? It doesn't have to be, like, the happiest song, but was there, like, a song or a process that really spoke to you and stood out from the others?
I think Tidal Wave was a really special one to me. Tidal Wave's the next single, or I should say the third single from the EP that comes out next week. And we shot an awesome video for it that comes out in, I think, 2 weeks. But yeah, I think Tidal Wave was a really interesting one, because when I was writing this EP, like, I don't know if maybe it was the universe, but I haven't ever told anyone really this, but other than close friends. But when I was writing this EP, my computer completely crashed, and I just didn't I wasn't good about backing my stuff up. So I really had this, like, heart attack moment. And I don't know if it was the universe, or maybe, like, you know, maybe it was the universe way of being like, you should write other songs. I don't know. But yeah, Tidal Wave was one of the songs that got lost, and I started it probably maybe, like, in this, right, like, in probably a year ago. I started it, had the instrumental, so, like, did all the guitars and everything, and it was done. I just needed to do vocals, and I think I went to go do vocals on it for the first time, and I think maybe I was getting over a cold, but I never finished the vocals. But I always liked the track. I always kept going back to the track. It had this really, like, kind of cinematic, like, sad feeling to it, and I just luckily my hard drive was recovered, and all my songs that I had started for this EP were recovered. So, but that was that was a hard one because, not to get all like geeky and technical, but basically I had to update all of my software, and when I did, like certain sounds weren't the same, so I had to like kind of work backwards, and really like that one took the most work, I'd say, because it was really like a matter of trying to figure out how to get the song to sound the way it did when certain things were all messed up. But that song, I think, just like lyrically also I'm really excited about. And also it has like one of my favorite opening lines I've ever written, which is like the Smiths were playing on the radio, the love we shared was growing cold. Because I think that's just so, not that I ever have a radio, but I listen to the Smiths all the time and just think like it just seems like such a cool thing that would happen, like breaking up with someone as the Smiths were playing on the radio. But yeah, that song to me, and that experience, and the fact that it was saved and brought back from the dead, and now is the only really visual aspect of the EP, because there's a video coming out to it. I think and also the process of making the video to this song, it could only have been made to that song. The video for Tidal Wave could only have been, I always say, like, it could have only been made with the people it was made with, and it could only be to that song, because it was such a nightmare getting that video together also. So I think it's something that people will probably be pretty receptive to when it's out.
Yeah. So I've got two questions actually quite related to that. So I'm going to start out with your new music, because that is coming out next week, and that's really soon. So what can you tell us about the new music coming out, and what do you think people should really be listening in for, or anything we should pay attention to when listening to these songs?
Yeah, so Music for Photo Booths comes out next Friday, the 23rd. And I think that, it's a little bit of a shift from the Turbulence EP, in the sense that it's a little bit brighter. It's a little, like I said, it's a little less specific. The title, this is kind of going back to my previous point of like saying, being honest where things come from. Like the title, Music for Photo Booths, I knew I wanted to use it for a while, and I didn't know, like, I'm not even sure why it came to me in that way, that I was going to reuse it. But the story behind it was, I met a girl. I played this show about a year ago, literally, I think a year ago. And I played it at this hotel, and it was like probably the first show kicking out the campaign for Turbulence, the last EP. And I met a girl at a show, and we had this really like interesting, like cheesy but like cool and like cinematic moment where there was a photo booth in the basement, and sort of like, I always tell people we met at the photo booth, but really the truth is that like she was there, and she was there with her sister, and we were hanging out afterwards, and like I guess it was like in the basement by the bathroom, and I was like, oh, she was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go use the restroom. I'm like, oh, I'll go too. And so afterwards we met back at like the waiting area of where the bathrooms were, and there's a photo booth, and sort of, so it's like, let's take pictures, like, I never thought it'd be like a cool thing for someone who was at my show, and we ended up like making out in the photo booth, like probably 2 pictures in, and that's sort of the weird way how we started dating. And then like I think like a day later I made her like a Spotify playlist and just called it Music for Photo Booths, and and so yeah, it came about, and I felt like that entire relationship with that person was really was a really like interesting one, the way it came about, and just kind of just was a little bit of a real nightmare in a lot of ways. Really sweet person. Will never like speak ill towards anyone I've dated, because I just think that's lame. But really kind person. But yeah, it just didn't really work out. And so I kept the deleted the playlist and sort of kept the name, and wrote, I think because I was writing a lot of these songs like during the warmer months, because it's just like gray and miserable in New York for 3 or 4 months. They have a little bit more of a lighter touch to them, but they still have themes that are kind of similarly based. But yeah, there wasn't like, it's just different in the sense that it wasn't about one specific person. It was more of like hypothetical, like You and I, for example, which is a song that's out, is the second single, is really like a letter to like the person I'm going to end up with. It's like, it's this idea of like being really, I've been honestly really scared to like enter into a serious relationship for a long time, and it's I think it's hard when it's hard to kind of go through the motions of like wanting to put yourself out there, but still having hang-ups about it, like, and having sort of associating sometimes relationships with like a lot of work, and I don't know, maybe it's just not the right ones yet. But You and I is kind of just this really like, I think, sweet idea of like wanting to meet someone and like run away with them and just have it be about you and that other person, and have this sort of spontaneous thing of just kind of like in the middle of the night, like going to their door, and just like being like, let's put stuff into a bag and let's just go somewhere. Let's just go. I don't care where it is. And it's weird because like also a lot of the imagery of when I was kind of figuring out the art direction for the EP, it was very, everything felt very like suburban. Like nothing felt like it. This EP to me, like the subjects, I don't know, it doesn't really sound like a New York EP, whereas like the art direction of Turbulence was really dark and was all shot around New York. It felt like all these ideas, even like that concept of going to someone's door, like, in New York, it's like, oh man, let me run up this 5th floor walk up, or let me go deal with this person's doorman, and they have to call you ahead and let you know that you're coming up. There's not like a whole lot of spontaneity in New York because of just the dynamic of how everything is. So I had this sort of idea of writing this like brighter, sort of more I guess 80s guitar leaning inspired body of music that still centers around like love and relationships, but just does it in more of a kind of suburban type of way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I personally love your music videos. I could watch them over and over and over again and never get tired of them. I think they're really different and unique from a lot of music videos I've seen. So can you explain the process you have when it comes to making videos for your songs? How involved are you? What's sort of that process like? I'm really involved with all of it. So about a few years ago, I was trying to figure out a way. I had this idea of doing I wanted to do something more unique. I didn't really want to do a storyline, but I wanted to do something that was visually cool. And so I had been searching on Vimeo and came across this guy, Marco, and thought his stuff was really cool. I think he just maybe graduated school, or maybe we both just graduated, or whatever the case is going to be. But and yeah, I just reached out to him and I was like, hey, I think your stuff's really cool. Like, here's my music, and we've shot actually a lot together. Not all of them have seen the light of day, or none of them are for songs that came out or are relevant, but we've had this really nice like cross-Atlantic like partnership now with these videos, and the process has really just been, it always seems like it's a very, especially for Tidal Wave, because I think you saw Tidal Wave, didn't you, before it came out? Because I think I maybe posted it and forgot to put it unlisted or something when I was, because I remember I was like, oh, you commented on this, and I'm like, oh god, no, that means that if you can see it, other people can see it. So yeah,
I'm glad you got to see at least a rough cut of it. I don't even think it was the final cut, but Tidal Wave's the only video where there's any sense of like live action, but everything else has been very stop motion, and I'd say Tidal Wave is probably the one I'm most proud of, because it was just such a pain to pull off. I mean, like, what we had to go through and what we had to endure. It's why I say, like, it could not have been with anyone else. It couldn't have been shot with anyone else other than Marco, and it couldn't have been shot with any other, like, love interest other than Jordan, who's the actress in it. Because it was just the three of us in a car, like, literally getting in a car and driving 3 hours out in New York, and shooting spontaneously in the cold in a town that was completely shut down for the winter because it's a beach town, it's a summer town, and it just came out. So I'm so proud. Like, I still watch it, even though we wrapped it maybe 3 weeks ago, but it's about to come out. I still watch it like all the time, and I can't believe that we pulled it off. So it's really just the two of us. I mean, it's just Marco, and even like with that one, Jordan was really involved with it, and we both styled it together, and it's very, like, people are like going to be like, people always ask like, wow, these, how do you do these videos? It looks like it costs a lot, but it really is just a friend of mine. It's just Marco and I creatively sort of going back and forth forever, and we really push each other of what's feasible. I have a lot of grandiose ideas, and he's like, yeah, like, dude, look at where we're at. It's like 2 people and a camera. Like, there's no crew, there's no nothing. We're doing it all ourselves. And I don't know. I think that's been my philosophy for everything. Is I feel like, I don't want to wait around for people to care enough about what I do. I want to give them something to care about. And so that's why I'm just, I've finished this EP, and this EP's gonna be out, and I'm already like, a couple of songs deep into the next one, because I think that's just ultimately what you do. You step back as soon as you release anything, you're like, I think it's kind of shit, I don't like it. And then you're like, you go back and you just write something that you think is better. And I mean, I don't actually think it's bad, I think it's good, but I'm just saying, like, that's the creative process, like, always just striving to get better and better and better.
Yeah. And even just seeing what you say is the rough cut for the music video, I think everyone's going to love it if that's just the rough of it, because it was amazing in every respect. So.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's probably like visually my favorite thing, because it feels quite adult in a way, It feels like, not adult, I mean, obviously we're still young people, but I just mean in the sense of, like, it feels mature. It feels like it's a really serious song, and it kind of shows a relationship. We played with the idea of having a really specific storyline, but really it's just about, like, it's about that young love thing. It's about just, everything that isn't said. And the underlying tones of the video, because there's no dialogue in music videos. I mean, at least there shouldn't be, I think. It's really, with Tidal Wave, it's really just about the mood and the background and the scenery and the looks and the things that, like, you could tell that, you want to say to a person, but you don't. And I think that's kind of what we were after with the video and the aesthetic and everything.
Yeah. So we're getting to the point where we're almost wrapping up. So this is sort of looking back at how far you've come so far, or as a message to anyone else wanting to be a musician. Would you give any advice to those people or to your younger self starting out that you wish you had gotten when you were first getting into doing music professionally?
I think it's going to be, I wish I told myself that it was going to be a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. And that, I think you don't do music to look for a semblance of validation. That's what I'm realizing. Because, I just think that, like, not everybody's going to love what you do. And I think it's just a matter of also being able to, like, just step back and analyze, all right, what am I doing that's working? What am I doing that maybe could improve? I think it's just really about kind of, it's all about having a little bit of a war of attrition with yourself and not giving up, because I think people just, if you just stick to your guns and you just, really just keep pushing forward, eventually people catch on. And, for me, it's always been about like the little victories, Like, I've by no means had an easy go of releasing music. I've had friends who they'll put out a song and they'll get signed to a label. But I think what I've realized that it's the people who really just stick in it for longest that kind of it all evens out, and people come around to what you do at different times. So I think it's just really about keep going and finding ways of sustaining yourself, like mentally and financially, mainly mentally, because it's all such a mental game. It's so, it can be really brutal, and there's tons of rejection. I really don't like that aspect, but at the end of the day, I was texting back and forth with one of my best friends who's in LA, and he's just like he's writing, he's trying to be a songwriter, or I should say he is a songwriter. He is a songwriter, but it's, equally a tough game writing songs for other people. And we were like, man, yeah, this is really hard. And he's like, yeah, but what else are we going to do? And I think that's really kind of what it comes down to, is like, you should do music because you just wake up every day and want to keep doing music. Yeah. So I think that's what I have to say about that.
And so this is the last question. I think this is always one I like to hear about because I love finding new music. If you were to recommend to anyone listening one growing or unheard gem style musician that we need to listen to, who would it be?
Oh man, one. I mean, I don't know that I listen to anything that, like, I'm definitely not cool enough to, like, listen to anything that people just aren't already listening to. I find myself going back to the same artists, but, like, I really love Muna a lot. I think they're really great. I think, or sometimes it's not even about like an artist, it's sometimes about a song. Like there could be a song that's been out for like 5 or 6 years that I'll just like stumble across and it will just like ruin me emotionally. There's a song called Someone New by Banks that I've just listened to so much recently because it's really like specific to something I myself am, a situation I'm in. So I think I don't know that there's like one specific artist that nobody's heard of. Or I should say, like, I have a lot of friends who I think are amazing. There's this really good friend of mine, Janelle Kroll, who maybe would be the best example of an unheard gem because she's incredible. And
she's amazing.
Yeah, she's one of the best. I love her, and she's just like one of the best people. Yeah, so I think, I don't know, there's like, I myself am like still trying to discover things. I think I'm always like really late to the game. So I'll like listen to a band like 3 years after they're like massive and popular. I'm like the worst like Brooklyn hipster who lives in Brooklyn and is a hipster. I'm like the latest on top of my hipster game humanly possible, it seems like. So
yeah, well, that's all my questions, so thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. And is there anything else
thank you.
You want to say to Unheard Gems? Anything else they should know before we say goodbye officially?
Yeah, Music for Photo Booths is out next Friday, the 23rd. If you're in LA, I'm playing the Peppermint Club on the 27th. And yeah, I hope you guys like this new EP and look forward to putting out more music, until you just are sickened by me and just want to run away because I'm everywhere.
Well, thank you so much again for your time.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much.